We have this little hour over the weekend to focus on the free progress approach. So for this, we've invited Jean, who came to the ashram in '68 and quite quickly dived into the school there, into the free progress part of the school there. Then we'll have Tejas, who's grown up in the ashram school. And of his batch, he was the only one, I think, who decided to remain in the ashram as an ashramite. And he was given the work to continue in the free progress line. And I think you all know, but somehow the ashram, in a certain way, in terms of education, in terms of many aspects, is like an older sibling to us. It also means that generationally, they're reaching a stage, they have reached a stage that we are only starting to approach. So he's the next batch of the people who are really holding the free progress there. Yeah. And Nilima, who has also grown up in the ashram and was part of the first batch of students of Tejas, who after school finished, though she continued doing some online studies, she stayed to teach at the ashram school. And recently, in the last year, has been more and more involved in the free progress line. She spends her afternoon in Orville, at Orville Consulting. Okay, so it's a nice bridge. So, and I'm Orevan. I've grown up in Orville, and I think free progress has been a very, very big guiding presence and approach in my education. And from a very young age, I dove into education. And I'm working at law school at the moment, as is Jean. So the idea would be to have a bit of a conversation, but let's open it out with something. I wanted to ask Jean, when you first arrived, what was a little bit that arrival moment? How did you enter into this quite new world? And then to be placed in a situation in which you are supposed to be, I guess, a teacher or presence or a guide in a free progress system without much background and diving at the same time in the world of Mother and Shrivindo. Can you tell us a story?
Well, just to present myself, I am one of those youngsters from the West who has been washed away in 1968 by what has happened in France at that time. I was been really active in the agitation of the student till the last moment, till August 68, where as a group of youngsters we went to Avignon, to the Festival of Avignon, in order to disrupt the festival. We call the bourgeois festival. You know? So we came there and we made some agitation. And at one point, it was an instant of my life, which I remember. We were a group about this amount of people. And we were discussing a forum about the importance of reinforcement of sound to be able to be heard. Do we need mics or not? And it was a very intense discussion, and the group were separated in small, and there was discussion. And among those participating, there was a man that I knew before. He was not yet a very famous comedian in France. I don't know if you, Romain Bouteille, was become a very famous comedian, artist. And among these, he was there. I knew him because I knew him from the cabaret, La Contrescarpe à Paris. There was a cabaret where he was performing, and I knew him from that time. And I recognized him in the group, and while we were discussing, suddenly he was about where Odile there, See where the deal? It's quite far. And between us, there was people discussing. And among the discussion, suddenly, he had a very deep voice like that. And he was saying that si ce que vous dites est la vérité de votre être, le message passe. He was saying, if what you say is the truth of your being, the message goes on. And I could hear him from there. And suddenly, I was no more here, but I was everywhere, and I could see that everybody heard the message. The next moment, when the conversation was over, when I came out, I had one question burning. The truth of my being. 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 I just rushed back to Paris, and 15 days away, I was gone. I left France without any option to return. Somewhere I had a deep understanding, feeling that France was not the place where I'll be able to find the truth of my being. Then I left France with a friend, and at that time we needed a big place, so we were aiming for Australia. But to go from France to Australia, and I came hitchhiking all along. What it means, I can just tell you that I saw the Buddha statue in Balian before their place. I mean, it was beautiful. I don't. Then I managed to. We could not. When reaching Calcutta, we realized that we could not go to Australia. So we decided to. My friend with me was new Africa. He said, "So we go to Africa." But from Calcutta to Africa, you have to go to Cochin, where you can board on the ship and you don't pay, you work and you. And Calcutta, Cochin, in between you have Madras. But something was important that in Calcutta, I received a letter of my father, poste restante. I don't know if you know what it is, poste restante. At that time, you see, when you wanted to communicate to somebody you were writing to the post, to the general post office of Calcutta or whatever, Mumbai. You put your name, and I want to. Then my father, anybody could go to the post office. I am Jean Legrand. Do you have any letters? Yes. Then I received a letter of my father telling my brother Pierre was in Pondicherry. Wow. So Calcutta, Chennai. But Chennai. We go to Pondicherry, and I reached Pondicherry 26 November 1968 at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't know what to do, to go, and I reached the school. Why? Don't ask me why I reached the school. Then I enter the school, and in Tanmaya, there was all the students of the free progress at that time were working. It was November, it was a holiday, so they were repainting and on the balcony. What are you doing here? Was my father saying, what are you doing here? I come here. So he asked me something beautiful. He said, but you have come up to here, where you go? Oh, we're planning to go to Africa, okay. But he asked me, do you want to know why I'm here? I said, oh, why not? Why not, since I am here? So he gave me, we were living in the Parc guest house at that time, Parc à Charbon. I don't know, you don't know what was Parc à Charbon at that time, but it was an incredible empty place. And we were there, and he gave me a book to read, L'Aventure de la Conscience. And it was a fantastic experience in the sense that as soon as I opened the book, I could see that the last 5 years of my life, how it has been somewhere guided for me to be able to come to the ashram. But at the same time, I was a student in electrotechnic engineering. I left before completing. And in the ashram, in the school at that moment, there was some student who needed some teaching on physics. And Tanmaya, who was at that time the person in charge of the Free Progress, and Pierre was working in the Free Progress, he asked me, "Are you interested to stay in the ashram? If you can work here, we need some teacher for physics, electricity physics." See, why not? So I'm ready. So Tanmaya wrote to the mother. I mean, it was the 27th or 28th of November. And by the 6th of December, I was in the school. I was, 22 years old? And I had kids which were 16, 17 years old. And it is my way I have been introduced to the Free Progress system. What I learned from that point is that in the Free Progress system there is one teacher, often there is many teachers, not the one you think are the teacher. The teacher are the young, the pupil, the student. They are the real teacher. You have to really to be, that's for me the essence of Free Progress is for the adult to be in a constant connection to the student, not to tell them what to do. You tell them what to do if they ask, but if they don't ask, you just listen to them, try to capture the essence of the message, and then maybe you can feel that, oh, you can help them to go in this direction. And for that, I mean, there's one thing that you have to forget completely, is a deadline. There's no deadline. You don't have to say, oh, they have to do that in such and such a time and where, and no. They have to they should feel that they have the full freedom to experiment anywhere, whatever in time. That is, for me, the essence of the Free Progress. But it was very possible in the ashram at that time, in the ashram there was a policy, there is no exam. There is an internal examination, but you have no official exams that you have to pass at a certain time and in certain condition. Each one has to approach it in his own way, in his own space. It is what we have to discover. Okay? So I was I was in 68, I came in Auroville in 77, so for 9 years I was teaching there. So the first 1 or 1.5 years I was with the older kids with Tanmaya. Then after, to be a little more connected to the real spirit of the Free for Us, I went as a mother, and I went to De La Font. De La Font is a part of the school who looks for the children from 5 to 10 or 11. And there with Padma, at that time was Padma, and Data, and we were looking after those little, and such a beautiful thing. The school De La Font was every morning when the pupils were coming to school, they knew that they had to answer one question before anything. We gather the kids together, teacher, make a circle, silence. What do you want to do today? You don't know? You want to do something special for you? Oui. Go there. And we had in Panama, we had this free painting constantly available for the kids. Whenever they had to do something, if there any problem, any difficulty, they have a special place where they can be free to express themselves with painting. That was. I remember one little Tamil boy, Pavitran. He was such a strong and at the same time some fabulous. And someday he was so tense welcoming to school. He said, "What do you want to do?" "Paint." "Paint, yeah, go." And you know what he was doing? He was taking the biggest paper, the reddest red of the one paper, two paper, three paper, and quietness. Then you can approach him. Then you can ask him, "You want to do something today? What? Any idea?" That was the essence of the free progress. But the first thing was what to do, what they want to do. So those kids at 5 years old, 6 years old, they had this habit to ponder what I'm going to do now. They were not depending on what the teacher were supposed to do. "Oh, today you do this and do this." No. It was something which was ingrained in them, no? Ingrained, put in there, and they use it beautifully, beautifully. For some, it was. I remember one Tibetan boy. "What you want to do?" "Don't know." "What do you want to do?" "Don't know." School was 11 months in the school, no? 10 and a half months. For 8 months, what to do? Don't know. Then one day, he came, "What do you want to do?" "I want to build an aircraft carrier." "You want to build an aircraft carrier?" "Yeah, yes." "Why?" "I must maybe in the Saturday before in the school in the cinema they must have seen a movie and aircraft carrier." He was so fascinated. But you see, with this aircraft carrier, I was with him. I helped him. We built in hard cardboard comme ça in scale replica of the Forestal. I mean, I don't know, it was the Enterprise, the Enterprise is one of the biggest aircraft carrier of America, and we built it at scale. But it was not only building it. He discovers the technique of street building. He discovers the poussée of Archimedes. We explore a lot of things. But the seed was coming from him, his interest. So that is, I have so many examples like that. But you see, if you leave them the proper moment to be able to come by themselves, what I would like to do. Then don't think that they have wasted 1 year or 2 years. No, they have been inside them, and when they are ready, in no time they catch whatever they have so-called missed according to our mentality, or our program, or how our kids should be, and what it is. No. Well, that's my personal experience, and I'm still going on with this experience. Is one of the results, and I'm completely convinced that it is the way to look, but it's not at all easy. We have to get rid of so much. And when you listen to the person, to the kid, it's not to listen to what they say. Then the free progress has a meaning. Voilà, it's okay?
Yeah. Hello. Pass it on to you. I think one of the questions that comes up to me, and also from my own experience, what Jean is speaking of, this patience, this observation, this sense that I don't need to know what is going on.
I still remember in Auroville, then there was a young girl when she was coming in the class, and if par malheur, comme on dit par malheur,
unfortunately,
unfortunately, if on the blackboard there was just a number. She could not see a number. She could not see. She was screaming. She was completely flipping out. It took me 1.5 years to reconcile her with the number, and not only reconcile, to be able to use them. Make 1.5 years. And when she left Auroville, and 3 or 4 years after, she sent me a message. Oh, Jean, I'm so grateful you have come, because of now. She was using mathematics constantly. So time, no time limit, no time limit. So I know for the organizer of school is a problem, but we have to be all together on that level, the organizers, the teachers, the students, and how to create a space which is flexible, growing, and it is not the place which is growing, it's the person inside who will make the place grow. The chair will be always the same chair. Okay.
So where are you at now?
Yeah, well, thank you, Jean, for sharing. I think your experiment with free progress happened before we were even born. So it's very interesting for us to hear, because we came in much later. And I had the good fortune, as Orevan said, to be a part of the ashram free progress to be in the late 1990s, early 2000. And from what I recall, the free progress experiment has continued in the ashram for the last 40, 50 years with different batches of teachers. And it is certainly the most bold and the most beautiful idea, I think, anyone has ever proposed. And I think, to begin with, Mother set the bar so high. When she was asked to define the free progress, she said the following: free progress is progress guided by the soul and not subjected to any habits, methods, or preconceived ideas. And, in that one sweep, you can see that all of conventional education has been taken away. And as Jean was saying, we have to begin anew. We have to accept that it's an adventure in the unknown. And I think as much for the teachers as for the students. So when I look back at my free progress years, I'm very, very grateful that we were given a lot of freedom. My first year was certainly the most transformative year of my own life. Exactly the question that Jean asks the student, was asked to us: what do you want to do? And I think for children to be just asked this question is life-changing. You have accepted in the usual stream, you attend a class, you are handed out a curriculum by teachers who have thought things through, planned things well, created a balanced program and everything, and we get so used to it. We are comfortable with that. And then all of a sudden you're asked, what do you want to do? And the next question follows very obviously: why do you want to do whatever it is that you want to do? And that changes everything, I think, for us as children, because so the first time you realize that you have needs. that you can, in fact, begin to ask yourself that question and discover directions in which you want to grow. And that is very, very special. So I was a very studious person before I came into Free Progress. I think it ended in 3 months, I think, but I'm very grateful for it because I discovered we just happened to have a new piano that had arrived, and I discovered I had a passion for music, and I was very grateful that my teachers did not prevent me from entering that room. I spent most of my first year, I think 20 hours a week at the piano, just playing music that I wanted to, composing, improvising, experimenting. I discovered I had a love of nature, and I was allowed to go to the ashram farms thrice a week. So I worked with animals, I did bird watching, I planted things. To be very honest, it was quite magical. And it made me realize that the most effective kind of learning happens when it is impelled from within. You know? And I think that's essentially what Mother's been suggesting in that definition she gave us, that free progress is learning that happens inside outwards. In fact, very interestingly, we were discussing the meaning of the word education. I remember when we came into the Free Progress with one of our teachers, and he asked us, what does it mean? And everyone started saying, okay, learning by reading, learning through instruction, learning from here and there. And then we went and looked up the etymology of the word. I don't know if anyone really knows the etymology of the word education. Very special. It comes from the Greek word educere or educare, which means precisely to bring out from within. And that changed everything for us, to realize that knowledge isn't something that you get from outside, but that whatever comes from outside is a suggestion to awaken the knowledge within you. And I think that's essentially what we have been attempting in our own way to, recreate in the Free Progress, a place where students can ask themselves these deep questions, to come in contact with their, inmost parts and discover whatever it is that they are really here to do. Discover the people they want to grow into, discover the means. For us, then the subjects, the projects become means and doorways rather than ends in themselves. So that's something that is, very, very special. Of course, I could say more, but I think we are short on time. I'll let Nilima share a bit from her experience. Just to end with, I'd say that, it has been an incredible journey to be a part of the Free Progress as a student and then to be a teacher. And I think that has opened even more doors, I would say, for me. We'll talk about that, I think, more deeply in a moment. Yeah.
What Teja said, it reminds me of one incident in the school in the ashram. So we had a little boy, and he was really aware of himself in somewhere. And in himself, he has 2 horses, the black one and the white one. And he was 6, 7 years old. And sometimes he was coming, he say, no, I don't want to speak. I want to speak. The black horse is coming. The black horse is coming. So the only thing that we are okay, you need to deal with your black horse. You go there in this corner and deal with it. And he went. And after 1 hour, half an hour, comes, the white horse has come. White horse has come. So it was this notion of, okay, that was when we say the inner part, they are very aware. That's why for the teacher who have 5 to 7 or 10 years old, they are so spontaneously true with themselves. If they are not damaged by the environment, if they feel free to be themselves, you will learn a lot. Afterwards, when the mind is coming more organized, it's a little more difficult to get, but it's still there. So, through the mind.
It reminds me of a tiny little passage that I read from the mother, just to put free progress in context. It is in 1959, I think, that she is talking to the teachers of the school, writing to them and saying, I'm preparing, I intend to take up the problem of education. I'm preparing myself for it. And she says, when I'm of course paraphrasing, not quoting her exactly. She says that it's going to be like a cyclone, It will be so radical, and you can see that that's exactly what she did with proposing free progress. It's an incredible adventure.
But if we take the image of a cyclone, very few of us who are ready to be carried away by the cyclone.
I think she must have meant the past, with all its set ideas and preconceived methods.
Nilima, I'm going to ask you a tough one. It's linked to this. It's linked to this cyclone. It's linked to. Okay, what? Because this free progress approach demands a lot from one who is trying to go in that direction, from the so-called teacher. I don't think any of us are ready for it at any point in time, regardless of how long we've worked in it or trying. So how do we start? How do we go about it? How do you approach it when you walk into your classroom or to your space?
That's an incredibly tough question, but I'll try my best. Compared to all your experiences, it's almost like I came yesterday. But I think I fail more than I actually succeed. So it's very much a learning experience for me. But something that I consciously try to do perhaps is to go something in the line that John mentioned, is not to have the assumption that students don't know what they want. That is the first thing that we go into the classroom with, that I don't think they have an idea of what they'd like to study, or I don't think they have the idea of what they should know at this point. And I think that has been a very conscious effort from my side to remove, because we always have the idea that they're still young, they need to be guided. So definitely that is something that I'm trying to work on. On the other hand, I remember my free system years being an incredible experience, actually, and very much the way Tejasda has described it, that I went into my history class and I still remember my teacher asking me, okay, what would you like to study? And I was completely blank. I had no idea. So that was the first time it hit me that I had to do some homework, go back, think about what is it that you'd like to learn, what is history about. So this opened the door for me, and I hope that these little experiences that I've been able to gather while being a student in Free Progress, I try my best to give the same kind of opportunity or even something better, because with experience you learn far more. So yes, drawing from both.
Now, one thing, when we, in the 1968 to 70 to 80, the students, we had not so much information. Now, when we deal with the kids of now, I think the main work for the so-called teacher is to to wipe out all this type of information in which they are completely brainwashed. So the condition of free progress now in 2023, I think, is much more, is more arduous, no? Arduous. But there is no other way. There's no other way to constantly try to call back, to go in. No time limit.
So how do we, I think that no time limit is one of the things that keeps coming back. I mean, even within our own team in school, we have different perspectives of how to go about education. I think the direction is common. That's why we managed to stick together over the years. But this is one of the things that keeps coming back. We're discussing at times, a particular student, how it's going for them, whether they're growing, what's going on. And then Jean will come, give it time. Give it time. And every single time he's right. But it's quite a work on oneself to be able to do that, to lose a little bit the sense of self-importance of what we think we can offer to the child, or the concern that they might not be going in the direction that we imagine for them. So this morning, Dipti spoke about this need for each one in their own way, which is an aspect, but also this shortcut that is the psychic, this shortcut that is the quest for the psychic. And my question to the three of you is this one: how do we initiate the quest? Ideally, we have an education in which our kids don't lose the contact with their soul. A lot of the time, we get in the way a little bit, be it as teachers, as parents, as adults, as people who know in some way or another, with all the best will and intention, but we educate it out of them, this sense and this contact they have. So a lot of the time, we need to find that contact again, or many of us need to find that contact again. And even when we know that we can find that contact, we need to make it more and more constant. So how do we go about inviting ourselves first in that quest, as an individual and in the collectivities of our schools, of our spaces, and then the students? How do we go about doing that?
I think the first thing is to realize if, and I think any one of us, everybody has this very particular moment in his life or her life where suddenly there is a breath inside. You breathe, something. It can be anything. It can be a butterfly, it can be music, can be a smile in the street. Suddenly there is a movement. That is a good sign that something is happening here. And if we can tell the kids that look at those moments, and I think they have plenty. Everybody has plenty of those moments where it's not breathing, it's not breath, something is happening. But for that, you have to listen, you have to have developed this skill. But once you have realized how well you are in those moments, you just aspire to be constantly in that moment.
Yeah, it's true. I agree with you, Jean. I think at heart it's quite simple. What we tell the children is that the inner journey does not necessarily need to follow a set method, a set process. It is the most spontaneous thing if you allow it to be spontaneous. And I think what I usually tell the children in trying to initiate this journey of self-discovery, because the question that all free progress students face is, how do I choose? How do I decide? There's so many levels of, you can say degrees of enjoyment, if we may call that, in the things we do. What is it that comes from my inmost part? What is it that's a whim? What's a fancy? What's a desire? And I think that's the first thing we usually tell them, that observe the quality of joy. Observe the quality of joy that you experience when you engage with different things. And I think if they begin to learn to differentiate that, they've already taken a very special step. You do not have the same quality of joy in doing different things. And I think it's the first step that really gets them to acquaint themselves with the planes and parts of the being, to see, okay, this is what I call a vital enjoyment. We tell them there is no judgment. You do not judge yourself of feeling a whim or a fancy, but to learn to differentiate, to learn to discriminate, so that you're conscious in your choices, so that you know what's coming from where. And I think the quality of joy that we experience is, I think, the most potent, I think, example we have to fall back upon. Otherwise, how do I know? How do I know whether I'm doing something because I'm good at it, because someone praises me, because it feels simple, whether because there's peer pressure? There's so many reasons why I'd want to do something. But I think if I can begin to observe the quality of joy, I have the inmost, I would say, point of reference. And I think it becomes much easier to choose what I want to do if I can refer to that always. No? So that's certainly one of the things that we, discuss with the children often. Yeah.
Would you like to answer before me? How do you do it?
Huh. I think for a very long time, there was something, it took a bit of time to realize, but that was really a gift. A gift when I used to walk into my classroom, regardless of what was happening on the outside. I don't know why, I don't know how, but when I would walk through the doors of that classroom, things would align. However prepared I had come or unprepared, and I used to prepare a lot, but regardless of how much drama surrounded the rest of life, the moment I walked through those doors, there was an alignment. And for a long time, it was not conscious, it was just there. And that allowed for a quality of work with the students, regardless of what we were doing together, that was incredible. And at some point in time, I started to notice that. I thought, oh, wow, what a gift. But then if that alignment is there, right, on a daily basis for those few hours a day, it means I can actually choose to have it at other parts in my life, right? So I started from myself, my own work, starting to work on that. And the beautiful side of that was that I was able to bring that in more and more consciously in different aspects of my life. And the other side of that, for whichever reason, is that that gift that I've been given for so many years shifted a little bit. And so suddenly I found myself sometimes walking through the doors of those classrooms, and something wasn't quite right, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And I wasn't quite at that center, and I would see the effects in the classroom. Yeah, I would say that the word that wasn't quite the right thing, suddenly the student would walk, there wasn't that same contact anymore. And I found it very, very interesting because it was a time of growth. So then I came back, now more consciously having to demand from myself this kind of centeredness walking into the classroom, this sense of, I don't know. I'm more at a loss than I was in the last 10 years. And so then it was beautiful because I would sometimes walk in at the same space and rhythm as some of the students walking into that classroom and starting to say, okay, wait, let's look at this. If we're not in contact with that right now, and many of the time we aren't, do we know that it's there? And so it started being an exploration a little bit, coming back to the why, the raison d'être of Orville, coming back, for example, to the first point of to be a true Orwellian. Okay, when she tells us, okay, the first necessity, the words she uses are incredible. The first necessity is the inner discovery. So that has to be the priority, and I had to anchor that into myself because it no longer was. I was busy with other things. So the first necessity is the inner discovery for me, and to offer it to those kids. Because, okay, we're amongst us right now, right? And we know that sometimes, for whatever reasons, we have had a long history of, or 50 years plus in Orville, and sometimes we've been afraid of speaking at a collective level, at an individual level, of the reason why we're here. Or sometimes perhaps we forget to tell the kids that, you know what, the most important thing you need to know is that you are a soul. You have a body, life, and mind, but you are a soul. And that's what you are. And that's what you're looking for, and that's what needs to guide your life. To tell that to our kids and to tell that to ourselves. So I started discussing things with the kids more. Because it was less natural, perhaps, but it gave us back to the first point. Where's that inner discovery? Do we know? Are we sure that there's that being inside? And sometimes when they're 14, it's difficult to hear that question. But, and I know we ask them at a very young age, we speak to them at a very young age, what happens in between? Can we continue to feed it? Because I think by the time we're a young adult, right, by 18, 19, 20, if you have that clear sense inside you, it's very difficult to completely lose it again. You'll have moments, you'll have dips, but you know it's there. You know you can find it the moment you really choose. So I think that's been my approach. It continues to be an exploration.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that goes without saying that if we are in a space where we are helping children begin this journey, we have to be first as teachers, at least have begun that experiment, that journey ourselves. Reminds me of something very beautiful the mother said about, the 3 degrees of teaching, and I think this would be interesting for everyone. She says that the first degree of teaching is teaching through instruction, which is what teaching through instruction, which is what we normally attempt to do and the least effective of the various methods. The second one and more effective, she says, to teach by example. And the third one, which I love, she says, is to teach through contagion. I love the use of that word, contagion. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things we can do as teachers, to be on a quest ourselves, to vibrate with the joy of that quest, of that seeking. And I think if all of us can hold that while we enter, as Orevan says, enter into the classroom, hold that during our conversations, children catch something, and then we realize we are all on that same journey. It's just the joy of discovering ourselves together.
Could you please repeat the question once? I think I've forgotten what you asked.
How do we, it's a free progress approach. This question, I think, vibrates for any approach, really. But how do we introduce the quest or encourage this quest of the inmost being in ourselves, in our team, in our kids?
I think something that has remained with me and something that perhaps is the starting point is to develop the habit of reflecting. So if we don't reflect and really look in and see what all lies within us, it makes the way we are handling situations very external. And so we are doing a lot of firefighting and we don't really understand. It's like working in the dark. So I believe for me, it has begun with the process of reflection. And the more you reflect, the more nuanced and the more sensitive you become about movements within you. And the more you become aware of those differences within you, the more effective also you become as a teacher. So in short, that would be the process.
For that, you have to be a hero. Hero. You have to be able to face whatever is inside.
I think, we have a few minutes left. I think we can go till 4:15. If anybody has
we can have some questions from the audience.
No, the quality of joy, that's something worthwhile really exploring. And the process of inquiring and exploring in that sector, we had a wonderful thing in the free section. I'm also a very proud product of the free section of the ashram school. And there was a room called the silence room.
Yeah, we still have it.
You still have it. So that room was extremely used and misused, very often misused, but
not during my time.
Yeah, so let's leave about the misuse and let's talk about the use. And sometimes we were just very gently invited to just pass a period there, free period inside there, and try to explore, think, ponder, contemplate. And sometimes with her grace, but we came out with wonderful solutions. And that was, the silence room had a very special importance in the decision making of young students like us, So I don't know if Orville they have something similar.
Yeah. No, we do try and encourage students to spend time in that space.
In fact, I remember my teacher, he really taught me. He literally taught me. I mean, I don't want to use the word teach, but he literally revealed to me how to create a rapport with yourself, how to dialogue with yourself. So that was, I think, one of the most precious gifts, apart from the joy of exploring things together. But this was also a very important gift that the free section gave to me. Thank you.
To talk about the challenge, beginning with ourselves as teachers, I think it's very easy to get into grooves. I think free progress, if it has to be worthwhile, has to begin with a very, very deep humility and a willingness to accept that we come to renew, in a certain sense, our knowledge base every day. The moment we begin as teachers to feel, oh, I know and I have something to impart, I think we begin to lose the whole spirit of free progress. So I think that's one of the most important challenges we face as teachers, to come and start teaching. Very simply, students will come and say, oh, I want to do English or literature or history or math. Oh, I know this, and come, I'm going to teach you. And I think that's it's something that we all do rather too often. But it's important to keep reminding ourselves that we should be open to learning things anew as often as needed, and not to get caught up into lecture-based systems, not to set our curriculums to. It's very easy to do that. You have worked with a batch of students, you've put together content, now you have a very nice course, and it's so tempting to offer courses. And I think, again, in free progress, if we start offering courses, it could be, the classes could be good, but it's not free progress. And we have to keep reminding that to ourselves, that every class, every student should be an adventure anew, that you're willing to start over if you need to. Several others, maybe Nelema, Jean, if you have others.
I think also perhaps with the organization. This is as an individual, right?
I think from an organizational point of view, of course, I think from the point of view of both the institution and the community, you also realize that there has to be understanding. Free progress, I think that's why it has often been misunderstood, because it comes with its challenges. It comes with the possibility of students wasting time, the thought of students going astray, the thought of students misusing liberty, and I think these are all the I would say challenges of the process. To first bring trust to the students, trust to the teachers, in allowing some amount of experimental freedom, because without experiment, I think free progress is nothing. So I think both communally, institutionally, we have to trust that if we are all aligned inwardly with the ideal, some experiments may work, some may not. Some students will waste time, and it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
And so remind me when I was in the free progress in the school, there was a lot of resistance among the teachers in the school about the free progress. The student in the free progress, and they were looking from, they doesn't know anything. So at one time, I think Martha said, to be a free progress student, you have this seed of heroism. You have to face incredible incomprehension from everybody. Because we have been formatted since we are like that to think. So how to get out of this?
Just getting out of structure, I think that is the biggest challenge of free progress.
And what we need is it's an act of faith. of faith. We have to be faithful. Whatever the difficulties, we are completely convinced in the faith that that's the way.
So we're also programmed to think also that, we have to do everything. Students have this fear, oh, what if I drop this subject? What if I drop that subject? And it's a constant conversation that we have to have with them. We tell them, do create as far as possible a balanced program for yourselves. But at the same time, there is no compulsion. There should be no compulsion. When the soul is awake enough, when the inner being in a child is ready, as teachers, as instructors, as guides, I should say, instructors is not the word, as guides in a system like that, we should be willing to completely remove all structure for children who are ready. No?
Now, I would like to say, you have to be also aware that there's no good deeds and bad deeds. Any action, whatever you do, can be the key for your own discovery. There's no judgment. We have to be really open to this. There is no hierarchy in that sense. Any action is a gate for your inner discovery. Can happen to anywhere, at all level.
What's the role of the parents, and how do the teachers and parents can come together as collaborators in the progress of the child?
The parents are the origin of the problem. And they go on to be the problems 90% of the case. I mean, the free progress in the ashram was possible, and I was convinced because the parents were giving their children to the mother, and they didn't question. So we were able to really experiment because mother was there, and we can be carried away. But there was this complete faith on the mother. So the parents here now, they have to be have the same faith that those teachers. They have to be.
Yeah, completely. I think that's the only thing that we keep coming back to trust, to have faith that even if we remove structures, even if we remove set curriculums and programs, that the journey will still have value. The journey will bring the children something, and they will be prepared. Maybe I would go as far as to say even better prepared for what it is that they must do with their lives if they have come in contact with that inner part. I mean, you can be prepared in terms of skills and faculties, but that's, I would say, less important than just share a very small quote. Mother says, essentially, the only thing, so she's saying this in addressing the teachers, essentially the only thing you should do assiduously is to teach them to know themselves and choose their own destiny, the path they will follow. To teach them to look at themselves, understand themselves, and to will what they want to be. And I think that's...
She said, what's to be, not what to do.
Yes, exactly. It's such an important point. Exactly. Not what to do, to know what they will to be. And I think if, even in a small way, in free progress, we can help them, begin that journey, I think that's it's already something very beautiful.
I have a question regarding the free progress now. So when we are teaching, and in the free progress, like Jean said that he wanted to make an aeroplane, but I have no clue of how to make an aeroplane. What should I do?
Go to Facebook.
Yes, I think one of the very nice things about free progress is also that there's this constant sense of learning together. So yeah, because even as teachers, it happens so often that children come and say, "Oh, I want to do this," or "I want to do that." We're not necessarily conversant in that subject. So we are certainly not experts. I think it's a lot of fun for teachers and students to say, "Okay, let us figure it out." And I think children love that. They love the possibility of being able to launch themselves on various journeys of discovery. So if they want to make something like an airplane, normally the way it would happen is a group of students or a student and a teacher would sit together and say, okay, let's find the resources. Let's do the background study that we need. Let's reach out to experts if there are experts, and then we'll see how we can figure this out. So a lot of figuring out together happens in Free Progress, and I think that's very, very nice.
As an experience of Free Progress in the ashram, with Guppy and the elder one, we were fascinated by the sea. So we had a group and we are diving and we are exploring all this aspect of the life in the sea. And till one day when we decided to build one what you call bathyscaphe, this special submarine. We go deep in the sea, so we managed to make one replica of the French one, again at scale, and with the help of some Bhagwandas at the point in Auroville, we make a fiber boat, and we make a complete replica. So we learn, we go to at that time there was no Facebook, we are looking the book, we are measuring, reading, and the kids, the students were looking at it, and finally we make our replica of the bathyscaphe. And you know what we did? We brought this bathyscaphe in the sea, and we were all together swimming with the bathyscaphe, and at 50 meters in the sea, or I don't know, somewhere. So we decided, okay, we make our real experiment was to put the bathyscaphe down. So we opened a little tap, then the water came in, the bathyscaphe went down, come to the bottom, and we put inside there was a device, and with the seawater coming in some Amul milk powder box, there was some chemical reaction, and the gas was there, and the gas was pushing the water out, and the bathyscaphe came back on the surface. But we did a real life experiment, in the sense that in the bowl of the bathyscaphe, there was a cockroach. So the cockroach went down to the sea and came up. We were not able to find out what was his feeling, but so I mean, the children were really aware of the situation. That it was a real life experiment for. By the way, the bathyscaphe is still over there in the school, no?
I think it is, yes. Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah.
Nilema.